Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. And by the way, Wendy, by the way, I'm with Wendy Rose Williams, and she's got about 85 different titles. Let me, right off the bat, let me give you the title of this very, very, very special, means a lot to me, and I'll tell you why in a second. Wendy Rose Williams, NDE, a near-death experiencer, uh, semicolon, past life adventure guide, certified spiritual teacher, hypnotherapist, and energy healer, author and speaker. And this is coming to you live from Spokane Valley, Washington. So we have a lot to unpack. We're never going to finish what we have to. We're going to talk about near-death experiences. Wendy and I, by the way, Wendy's spiritualist. I'm a spiritualist of sorts. I mean, I don't mind promoting. I wrote this. There's a tortoise in my hair, a journey to spirit. And that's one of the bonds that Wendy and I share, our journeys to spirit. So, and a key element, a key element, I'm looking, oh, okay. A key element for me is the numerical essences, and it happens to be November 11th, 11/11. And part of my spiritual journey is 11/11 and 444. So here we are, my 400th, my 400th video interview today with you, Wendy.
How
Uh,
perfect.
and it's 11/11. So in the great cosmos of spirit and things beyond our comprehension, this is particularly meaningful to be here, and we have so much to learn from you. So I'm going to now defer to you. You're introduced. If you could do a little background. Oh, and we met on one of our sites that we're both members of. And Wendy reached out, and the very, very second I saw Wendy's background, which she's always ready to talk about near-death experience, energy healing, spirit guides, past life healing, soulmates, spiritually transformative experiences, ghosts, spiritual awakening, channeling, a lot of the stuff, that's part of my life. And that's the bonds, what makes this so very special, Wendy. So take it away, and then we're gonna kind of jump into some stuff. A little background.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Calvin. Thank you for having me as your guest. And what happened with the near-death experience, there actually were two a couple of days apart. And it was August of 1997, and I was newly pregnant, and my husband and I were very, very thrilled because there had been years of infertility as well as two ectopic pregnancies, and we had an 18-month-old toddler. So we really, really were so grateful to be adding to the family. And the day of the first near-death experience, I was working at home alone, and my husband was at work. He had one of the family cars, and our nanny was at the park with our toddler, and she had the other car. And Calvin, I just did not feel right that day. I just was so restless. I couldn't settle down. I was 10 weeks pregnant. I'd had just one visit to the OBGYN physician, and he was very reassuring. Everything was looking great. But two things were really catching my attention. And one was I had so much heartburn. I'd never had so much heartburn in my life. And I'd actually called the doctor's office a couple times to
Can I
say,
interrupt you?
sure.
Was this your first foray, your first experience with this whole spiritual uh
It was in many ways. At that point, I was 36 years old. I'd had my MBA since I was 22. I was a casual Christian. I believed in God. I believed that Yeshua was his son who'd come to uplift mankind and was this amazing healer. That was about as far as it went. I was not awake to spirituality. I was not awake to the universe, to energy in any way, just a really busy, conservative, married working mother. dealing with infertility at that point and just super, super busy. So when I called the OB office and regarding this relentless heartburn, they said just go ahead, take my Lanta. That's safe in pregnancy. So I was doing that by the bucket load, and it was doing absolutely nothing for me. The other thing I was noticing, Calvin, that was really unusual was I was having a vivid dream, the same dream multiple times a week, and I'd never had that happen before. And what would happen in the dream was I would see this terrible storm out at sea, and I would see a sailing vessel, multiple masts, and there was all this ripping and tearing going on. So the winches, the cleats, everything is just tearing off this ship in this terrible storm. And then the masts would all fall, the ship would break in two, and the ship would go down. I didn't know the concept of prophetic dreams, that our intuition, our higher self, our guides, God, whoever you want to just feel that incredible information and help and support, trying to get our attention is coming up. So those were the two things that were also going on. So I'm working at home. I can't get comfortable. I suddenly had this terrible feeling of impending doom I've never had before in my life. So I ran into the bathroom thinking I'm going to be sick. Something's really, really wrong here. And when I got into the bathroom, I looked down in surprise because there was this incredible pain in my abdomen. It felt like an organ had burst, was all that I could think of. And I remember crying out to God for help. And I went down. I passed out, and I was alone on the floor, unconscious. I only came to, Calvin, because there was this insistent male voice, and he kept saying, Wendy, Wendy, you've got to wake up or you're going to go home.
Jeez.
I knew exactly what he meant, that I was going to die if I did not get some medical assistance. So I open my eyes, I'm disoriented because I'm laying on my side in the bathroom, and I'm just fetal position, just clutching my abdomen from all the pain. And as I open my eyes and look around me in my bathroom, all I could see was light coming from these beautiful 4 or 5 angels. And there was so much love coming from them. There was so much compassion, the wisdom, and I could just feel that coming from them. And they just were lighting up my world. So he repeated, you've got to call for help now or you're going to go home. And I responded, I know, and I'm trying to take this all in because this has taken angels out of the theoretical aspect of, they're just so beautiful on Christmas cards and art. I had wanted to believe in them, and they're now my reality. There's no arguing direct experience like that. And when he said that to me, I responded, I understand, but I can't walk. I don't know how I'm going to get to the phone, because this was August of 1997, and we didn't have, the cell phone, glued to our hand or glued in our back pocket like we often do now. And his response to me, Calvin, it was on multiple levels. I've since learned that is how angels speak. And he said, you just have to be willing to try. I think he was referring to free will, because we live on a free will planet. And we've got to be willing to do our work. We can't just abdicate it and, bring in your magic wand, make it all perfect and easy for me. That's not how life works. We've got to, we're here for experiences. We're here to learn. We're here to grow. So I managed to get up on my hands and knees with a lot of effort. I couldn't stand. And at that point, again, my mind was just blown. My belief system changed so rapidly, because at that point, when I got up on my hands and knees, it was like being gently moved or relocated, just helped by the angels. And I'm now like right in front of my nightstand where the landline is. So I'm reaching up for it, going, wow, I was over there and now I'm over here. Wow, just focus on the phone, Wendy. I need to call for help. And I chose to call my husband at work because there was nothing, there's nothing specific about who to call. And I was a 36-year-old healthy woman. I'd never called 911 in my life, so it didn't enter my mind. So I called my husband because I knew he worked very close to home. And I give him a lot of credit because I got him immediately on the phone. I know I was just being so assisted. That has never happened before or since.
Hmm.
And all I said to him was, I need you to drive me to the hospital now. Can you take me to the hospital now? And all he said was, on my way. And I heard him, slam the phone down. So I knew he'd be home in less than 5 minutes. And I had just enough time to call the OB office to tell them what was happening. And I told them, in addition to this incredible pain, and that my husband was on my way to get me and get me to their office. I told them that my abdomen was just distending really remarkably and getting bigger and bigger, and I didn't understand why. So the response was, "That's great. Your husband is on his way. He's going to get you here faster than 911 at this point. When you get here, don't try and park the car. We're going to be waiting for you curbside with a wheelchair. We do not want you walking." And I knew they were thinking miscarriage, and I had an instinct that was not what was going on. But I said, "Great, we'll be there as fast as we can." So I have just enough time to get downstairs. I did not trust myself to try and walk because I had a full flight of stairs to get down. So I went down like a toddler, very carefully on my butt, and went down step by step. I had grabbed my purse and I unlocked the front door, and I was sitting on the ground in the foyer when my husband got there, and he kind of scooped me up and helped me get into the car. So we get to the hospital. The OBGYN office was at the hospital. I think that was really important for me too. Again, I just felt all this assistance for
Right.
me, even though things were happening very quickly. So I get scooped into the wheelchair and taken up to the OB's office, and I'm helped onto the ultrasound table because I can't even get up on it myself. And the ultrasonographer, she adjusts the machine, and I'm looking at the machine in puzzlement because I'd had ultrasounds before, and it's amazing how much you can see. And all I was seeing, Calvin, was just like black, like these wavy black lines. And I said to her, "Is your machine working? I don't get it. I'm not seeing anything." And her response was, "I'll be right back. I'm gonna get the doctor." So I'm looking at my husband like, I don't know what's going on, but this is not good. So she returns very quickly with not only the physician, but with a nurse midwife. And that did strike me kind of humorous. I'm looking at, like, you got 5 people now squeezed into this tiny room that's meant for two. And the physician adjusts the ultrasound machine, and he knows what's happening. And he tells me as kindly as he can, but very to the point, "Wendy, you've got a major abdominal bleed going on. I can't visualize where it's coming from. That's what you're seeing on the screen. That's all blood loss. And it's a big one because that's why your abdomen is distending like this. Blood is going where it should not be going. So we need to admit you to the hospital right now." So someone ran and got a stretcher. They didn't even want me sitting up in the wheelchair. They wanted me prone at that point to see if we could get the bleeding to stop. And they're propping up my feet at that point to keep to be protecting my head and my brain at that point. So I get whisked over into the onto the GYN OB emergency floor, whatever whatever floor I was on, and they lifted me into the bed. And at that point, so there's just a lot of people. My husband's there. I've got the OBGYN with me. I've got multiple nurses there. I've got registration there. Everyone's just trying to get me settled. So one of the nurses asks me if I know my blood type because the doctor's written an order for transfusions. And I said, of course, I know my blood type. I think everyone should know their blood type. I think this is so important. And nowadays, you can get for free, you can download an app to your phone called an ICE in case of emergency app. Just put it on your phone and put in there your blood type, any allergies, any pertinent information. And if you're ever in a situation where medics need to attend to you, hospital personnel. If you're ever in a car accident and you're just, fuzzy headed from bumping your head or whatever, you're going to have your phone with you. And the medics can get to this app without knowing the password to your phone. So I think everyone should have that app on their
Oh,
phone.
that's great.
So I told the nurse my blood type is A negative. So she ran to the nursing station, and I noticed too. I worked in healthcare at the time, Calvin. I spent my career in healthcare, so I'm also seeing additional things that the average patient might not notice. I noticed they'd put me right next to the nurses station, which meant they were really concerned about me because we didn't know what was going on. And she comes back. She's now called the Puget Sound Blood Bank because I was living in Seattle at the time. It's a central blood bank to not waste this precious resource. She comes back in looking not happy and tells the doctor and me, I can't believe this. This is so unusual, but I cannot get blood for her. I can't get blood because evidently there was a train collision a few days earlier in Seattle, and it's wiped out the supply of A negative blood temporarily. So we'd been having the discussion, should I be taken immediately to surgery? But we don't know what we're operating on. We don't have blood, and I'm pregnant. So, no one wants to rush into surgery at this point either. You want to make the best decision. There was also a brief discussion of should I be transferred downtown? And we agreed no, that I was right where I needed to be. And Calvin, I was in my local community hospital, but they were doing about 5,000 births a year, which I knew. And I knew the implications of that were they were very well prepared for any types of OB emergencies like I was having or GYN emergencies. And in addition to having delivered my daughter there, I'd had my infertility treatment there, and I'd had two ectopic pregnancy surgeries there, all with my same physician. So I'm like, I'm right where I need to be. So they were able to get blood for me about 6 hours later, and I must have borrowed it from another another hospital. And so I'm laying in the bed because we're doing what's called watch and wait, and we're doing transfusion medicine to see if we can get this to resolve on its own. And I'm like going through in my head, okay, what are the non-essential organs? Okay, gallbladder. What else can I think of here? Appendix. And I'm just trying to, imagine the body healing itself because our bodies are miracles. I mean, they're just regenerating themselves all the time. So that's the place I was in. But as the days went on, because we did watch and wait for several days. And of course, I'm being very closely attended. They're drawing blood and looking at my hematocrit especially closely. And they're also monitoring how much blood I'm going through, which was an alarming amount. And I could feel myself, Calvin, walking between worlds is the best way I can describe it. It was very difficult to stay conscious. It was very difficult to answer questions intelligently as medical personnel came in to care for me. And what concerned me the most about it was I was in so much pain and so scared that I didn't really care that I was walking between worlds. And that is so not my personality. I've always been get it done, figure it out, just very, very motivated person. So that was definitely getting my attention, that I could feel I was deciding whether to stay or to go. So on the third day, my physician says to me, Wendy, no surprise, you probably know this already, but you're officially bleeding out. And what I mean by that is your hematocrit has been dropping lower and lower and lower every day. We cannot transfuse any more blood more quickly because you just lose it more quickly than we can transfuse it. And I knew that was so true based on how I felt, as well as my abdomen. I now look like I was 5 or 6 months pregnant. So there's just all this blood pooled in the abdomen where it shouldn't be. It's clearly not circulating normally in my bloodstream. So my physician says at that point, we've got to do surgery. Will you please agree to surgery? I said, yes, I understand. I know. That's the best move at this point. So I signed the paperwork. The surgery is scheduled for the next morning. I'm going to be the first case of the day, which again, I know means they're really concerned. It's going to be my own doctor, which I'm very happy with, particularly with the history that I had with him and one of his partners. So I'm feeling some relief, Calvin, from having made this really hard decision. And I'm relaxing in my hospital room, just trying to take some comfort from the fact that we're going to resolve this the next day. It's right after dinner, so it's around 4:30. You get your meal so early. There's no one else in the room with me in my hospital room. And I'm just trying to imagine, visualize, create the best possible outcome. And the minute I have that thought, I pop right out of my body. I leave my body. Oh my gosh, the relief. And I start feeling better and better and better. So I'm above my body. I remember looking back over my left shoulder and looking at myself in the bed. And I remember thinking, and my sense of humor was starting to come back because I wasn't in so much pain and I wasn't so scared because I'm back in pure soul form. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, look at her. She's just whiter than the sheet. She looks like a ghost. And I had a really funny thought too, now that I'm back in pure soul form, I'm my higher self. And I remember thinking, oh wow, look at her hair. She looks like the wild woman of Borneo. Because of course, I've been in the hospital bed thrashing around for 3+ days. There's been no mirror, there's been no comb or brush or hair washing. So I looked a mess. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I referring to myself in the third person? She, her, who's that in the bed and who am I? And that was very easy to work out. I knew I was back in pure soul form. I knew I should be like a beach ball, like this white bouncy orb of just energy. And I knew what was in the bed was my body. And the body's very, very important because it houses our soul. I mean, we're meant to, treat it well. And it's important, but we're not our body. We're souls, and that was very clear. So I look one more time at my body in the bed, and I'm so blasé about it. I'm like, she's fine. Not fine at all, but that was the soul's perspective on it at that moment. All I cared about, Calvin, was following the white light, because from the moment I left my body and am kind of checking on my body in the bed, all I can see is this beautiful triangle coming through the ceiling of my hospital room. It's white light. It's this gorgeous white light, and I can feel like this gentle magnetic pull to it. I'm like, I want to follow that. So that's exactly what I did. And I start following up. I go through the ceiling effortlessly. I go up through the rest of the hospital building. And I looked back at a certain point as I was traveling on up into the light, just feeling better and better and more like myself. And as I said, no more pain, no more fear. And I looked back at a certain point and I could see like the curve of the earth, like an astronaut overview effect. And I remember thinking, ah, she's so beautiful, referring to the planet. We've got to take better care of her. And then I just kept on going because I just had to follow that white light. I was so excited about it. And then I'm continuing to go up higher and higher. And all of a sudden, it's this terrible feeling of like stuttering to a stop. If you've ever been in a car that's run out of gas, that awful feeling of like, oh no, I'm all the way out of gas. I've run out of energy. I've run out of gas. And I just stuttered to a stop. And my immediate thought was, oh, please don't make me walk through that long tunnel to get home. I don't have enough energy. I will not make it. I need help. And that was interesting because again, this was 1997 and I'm 36 and I've not watched any movie about tunnels to go home. I can't remember ever having read about it, but somehow I instinctively knew that was how a lot of people made the journey home. So the minute I have the thought, don't make me go through that long tunnel, this pristine escalator drops in for me. And I'm like, oh, there it is. There's my ride.
Wow.
So grateful. No one else on it, all this light from it. So I plop myself on the escalator with a lot of relief. And in doing so, I plopped myself over the right handrail. And that made me realize, wow, I'm like flatter than pancake. And I knew I should be like this bouncy orb, but because of the situation that I was in where I'm bleeding out, I'm like a flat tire, just like hanging over the railing. So the escalator takes me on up to the light. And at the top of it, oh, it was so amazing. Clearly, the same angels that had been in my bathroom knew I was coming, as well as my soul family, my soul group of the people that I just knew the best and had incarnated with many times. They're all waiting for me. There's this huge welcoming party at the top of the escalator. So I take one step off it, and everyone just grabs me in this big hug. I could have stayed there forever
Mm.
because it was unconditional love. And I cannot tell you what that felt like. And it made me realize we've got to learn how to give this to ourselves as well as to give it to others on earth. Because so often when we express love, when we give love, it's conditional. It's based on this or that, and it's got judgments associated with it. If you've ever had a child, perhaps for many people, that's that best moment of unconditional love, to be holding that baby and be looking at that baby and just feeling your heart opening. So that's what I was feeling from everyone. And I'm just basking in it. So at that moment, Archangel Michael starts speaking. The moment he said his first word, I was like, oh, that's who was in my bathroom. Of course. I'm so fortunate. That's who came to help me when I had been home alone a couple days ago. And when this first started, I had the first NDE, and now I'm into the second NDE. And he said, welcome home. We're so glad you're here. You've done nothing wrong. You made it. You're welcome to stay. But if you want to go back, you're going to need to decide quickly. And I'm still getting this hug and this unconditional love from everyone that evidently I was very hungry for. And I'm kind of looking at them like, go back? What are you talking about? Not when I'm receiving this. So everyone kind of realizes and takes a step back and, disconnects from me so that I can listen to him. And he continues and says, I can tell you three things to help you make your decision because you're going to need to decide quickly. And I kind of flash back on the body in the hospital bed. I'm like, oh, yeah, clearly I'm going to need to decide quickly because there's no soul in that body. And she is bleeding out. So what he tells me is number one, if you choose to go back, you will have a successful surgery tomorrow. You will fully regain your health. This is huge because I have been very concerned about that. Number two, if you choose to go back, your baby will be born healthy. This is also huge because, as I said, years of infertility, ectopic pregnancies. I'm 36. This was such a wanted pregnancy. And I had a strong instinct. It was my last opportunity to have another child. So it's like, oh, wow, this information. Now I'm starting to lean toward going back. Number three was the kicker. And what Michael said was, if you choose to go back, your life will be very difficult, likely for many years, because you're not living your purpose. You're not on your life path. Calvin, I felt terrible. I was just chagrined. I could just feel my energy just plummeting. I'm like, oh no, no one wants to hear they're not living their purpose. So, of course, I ask him, well, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? Do more of, let go of? Tell me what it is. I want to do it. I want to get it right. And he just gently shook his head. So it's like, okay, he's not going to tell me anything more, but I'm like, well, wait a minute. Come on. Group dynamics here. I've got my whole soul family here. There's other angels here. I just have to find the chatty Cathy in the group. So I start going around to every person. I'm like, come on, tell me, give me a clue, give me some information. What's my purpose? What's my path? What should I be doing? And I'm going around and I'm getting more and more dejected because no one will tell me anything. And then I start to realize, so they can see me just like plummeting. Like, how can I go back when I don't have a clue? How can I not know anything at 36? That's awful. And I'm just getting so dejected. So there's telepathy at home. Everyone knows what everyone's feeling, and you're literally one. We are one on the planet Earth too, but we have forgotten that through the veil of amnesia. But that knowledge is coming back. So everyone starts being super funny because humor, it just naturally raises our vibration and frequency. So when I go to ask the next person, they put duct tape over their mouth, but they're really funny about it. And the next person like locks the key and like throws the key away really comically. So I just start laughing. I'm like, okay, I get it. You're not supposed to tell me. It's my life path. It's my life purpose. I need to figure it out. That's on me. That's up to me. So Michael then asks me, what do you want to do? And the minute he asked me that, Calvin, all I can see is our adorable toddler's face. But it wasn't normal size. It's like it filled my world. It was like all the way to the top, to the bottom, to the sides. It went around me. It was like bigger than the 70-foot IMAX screen. All I could see was Tara's adorable little face, and she had this brown curly hair and these big hazel eyes, and I could just see her smiling at me. So I said to Michael, put me back in, coach. I'm ready to play, meaning I was ready to engage with life at a deeper level. And I told him, I said, I want to go back for my children. So everyone, he's just beaming at me, and everyone is like so excited, and they give me another big hug, and they're like, you can do it. We believe in you. You're so brave. You can absolutely do this. So I get this second huge hug. And that time I felt not only the unconditional love, but I could feel energy being downloaded to me. And I'm not sure I would have survived that complex hours-long surgery the next day without getting that energy boost and that love and support that I needed.
Wow.
So everyone, steps back at a certain point because Michael said, she needs to go. So they're just, cheerleading for me, and he puts me so much love, and he puts me back on the escalator, and I'm like looking over my shoulder, and I feel really great about this experience that I've had. I'm so, so grateful for it. And everyone's, staying in cheerleader mode for me, get back in there, you can do it. And I just go down the escalator, and it's the easiest thing in the world. I just go slowly right back into my body in the hospital bed. And then that white light, it's very sparkly and glistening. And it just starts to just like gently dissipate. And it's just gone. Two immediate thoughts when I get back into my body. My first thought was, ugh, dang, why is she so small? I was super irritated that I'm 5'2". And because the higher self, the soul energy, it's so big, it's so expansive, and it really felt hard to crunch into the little human body again. And then I'm like, okay, I chose my body. It's for good reasons. It is what it is. And the second thought was, oh, wow, this pain, still in so much pain. They had tried giving me Demerol, and I blew through that. I was on morphine. I mean, I was just very, just in so, so much pain. I'm like, well, the surgery's tomorrow, and this is so amazing that I know it's going to be successful, and I know the good things that are going to come. And what's challenging, I'm just going to have to figure it out. So, clearly, I did have a successful surgery the next day. They did it under imaging guidance because they really wanted to be able to stay away from the fetus. And I'm only 10 weeks pregnant. So, of course, the fetus is tiny, tiny. And the doctor told me later, he said the fetus was tucked all the way in the left lower corner of my uterus. And what they discovered was my fundus had ruptured, Fundus. What that is, it's the aorta at the top of the uterus. So that's what had happened, and that's why all that blood loss, because an aorta had ruptured. So I am so fortunate that this happened in modern day, because 50 years ago, 100 years ago, I would not have made it through that occurrence. So that's what happened. And
Wow.
I'll stop at that point. There were five people that came forward to me from the higher self that made me, or from the soul family group when I was home, and they all made me realize different things. But I'll just stop at this point. What questions do you have?
Wow. Um, it's interesting because we all dream, but we don't recall dreams, but you have total recollection. So it's not a traditional dream. It's a real,
It's an experience.
yeah, it's an
That's the
experience.
definition of it's a near-death
Yeah,
experience.
it's an experience. I mean, I had a wild, crazy dream that I actually remember a little bit this morning. I got up and got a drink of water and went back to bed, and it was an intense dream about college and interacting and but I remember, but bits and pieces. But you have so so that's done, that experience. So you are now, and you've had a near-death experience.
Mhm.
So you're now being raised spiritually to seek other things out and to investigate.
Yes. So what it did was it started to wake me up spiritually. That because just the reality of all the things I learned. Some of the other things that I learned, really, it's re-remembering. It's getting the refresher. It's working through that veil of amnesia that we come in with when we incarnate and choose our bodies and our families, and some of the major things that are going to happen to help us progress and help us learn. But what was interesting was when I first got home through that escalator ride, I could see five souls front and center. And it was my all four grandparents and one of my best friends in this lifetime. I was not surprised to see my maternal grandparents, my mom's parents, because I knew them very well, and they had, passed on. And that wasn't a surprise to me to have them greeting me. So that was wonderful to have that reunion. What was interesting, though, Calvin, was my dad's parents were also there, and I knew exactly who they were. Everyone looks the same. Everyone's, like I said, like this big, delightful beach ball. That's what souls look like to me, like with all this bouncy energy, like a lightning storm within it. And to see my dad's parents, and everyone looks the same, but you know exactly who they are because it's an energy signature. But to see my dad's parents was so cool because I never met them in this lifetime. They died before I was born. And that made me just realize, you know, we've known each other through eons and through many lifetimes, and you just know who they are. There's no missed reunions at home because I often hear people worrying about, wondering about, well, what if you know, if I'm thinking through reincarnation and you know going on home after this lifetime, you know, what if my mother's not there or my favorite sister or my best friend? Because what if they've already incarnated again and they're not there? Well, they're always going to be there because it's an aspect of their higher self energy there. There's no missed reunions. So cross that off the worry list, everyone. You do not need to worry about that. You'll have beautiful reunions with whoever you want to. And same thing, it was so intriguing to see one of my best friends there because she is very much alive. And that's what made me recognize, oh, that's the higher self energy. And there's always a portion of it at home.
Oh,
So, you
right.
know, just these things were starting to come back to me. But Calvin, I didn't know what the heck to do with it. Because as I said, it was 1997. I recuperated in the hospital for a few more days, and then I went home to 6 weeks of strict bed rest. I couldn't have done anything else if I wanted to. I was just weaker than a kitten. My physician estimated I had lost 3/4 of my blood supply just during this experience, and you know, based on the amount of transfusing that they had to do. So I was very, very fortunate to be at home recovering. And I tried to talk to my husband about the experiences a little. And what I realized very quickly was he was more traumatized than me because put yourself in his shoes. I'd had very positive aspects to what had gone on with both of these near-death experiences. He hadn't had those experiences. He's in his late 30s. He's got a wife that he thinks is going to die and losing another baby. And he's also thinking, am I going to be raising an 18-month-old on my own? So he was very traumatized by it. And I would later learn he was going through some very difficult things at work which he didn't share with me because he thought I had enough on my plate. So I go back to work after having been out for 7 weeks, and it's a job I love. It's a busy ambulatory surgery care center, and people would pass me in the hall. You know, coworkers, of course, know I've been out all this time, and they're like, "Oh, Wendy, we're so glad you're back. Are you all right? What happened?" And I just kind of like look at them blankly because I like how do you share this? I didn't have words for it, Calvin, for about 20 years. It took
Wow.
me that long
Wow. So
to
wait,
finally,
you've gone from that and you've gone from that and it resonated within you, but you did nothing with it for 20 years?
yes,
Wow.
because I thought briefly too about sharing it with hospital personnel, but again, it was 1997. And I worked in healthcare and I'm a practical woman. And I thought that was likely to get me a psych eval. And I did not want or need a psych eval. So it's like, nope, I'm just not feeling the need. And the irony of that, Calvin, because I lived in Seattle, and Seattle is home to the oldest chapter of IANS, the International Association for Near-Death Studies, which
Wow.
is a beautiful support group for near-death experiencers and their loved ones. But I didn't know it. So evidently, I was meant to just unpack this on my own, and I did so, you know, through the years as my belief system continued to just open and open with the experiences that would change me. So all I could you know, say to coworkers was, oh, you know, thank you, I'm doing fine. I held on to the pregnancy, and that's basically all I would could or would say to anyone. So I'm back at work for about 6 weeks. As I said, job I loved. I had been there for several years, and it's now November of 1997. And I get called into my boss's office on a Friday afternoon. I don't think a thing about it. We have a great relationship. I think he just wants to tell me something he needs done the next week, or to, chat about what we're gonna weekend plans. So I go into his office, Calvin. I'm not even one step into his office, and I can see weight of the world on his shoulders. And I also see human resources sitting there with my personnel file. I don't even need to, I don't even need to hear them say a word. I know what this is. This is the dreaded Friday afternoon layoff. So I get laid off from a job I love, very much need, and I'm also carrying the health insurance for the family, and I'm pregnant. So this sucks. This is just a really, really
Wow.
tough, tough layoff. They do it as humanely as they can. Wendy, we're going to give you a great reference. Tell us anything we can do to help. Here's your severance. Please go ahead and apply for unemployment. Of course, that'll get approved for you, and let us know anything we can do to help you. But that was the reality. So I go home and tell my family what's going on, and file for unemployment immediately, and just start, what expenses can we cut? What can we do? How much room do we have on credit cards? What do we do to ride this out? And what the heck can we do to get health insurance? Because I needed to deliver in hospital, with all the extreme things that had gone on. So we're kind of in that place, and I'm looking for a job. But Calvin, I don't feel well. I'm still recuperating from everything, and it was a really hard time to be interviewing.
Ooh.
So 1 week later to the day, my husband is about 3 hours late coming home from work, and I can't reach him by cell phone. And I'm really concerned. I'm thinking, did he have a fender bender? Did he like lose his phone? Is his phone not charged? What's going on? This is really unusual. So I'm sitting by by the front door on the couch when he comes home. And again, the minute he walked in the door, I can just see weight of the world on his shoulders. And he says, Wendy, let's sit down. I need to tell you something really difficult. And the first thing he says to me is, I've just gone to payless paydays. And now it becomes, Calvin, it becomes almost comical because I can't process payless paydays because those two words don't go together. And it becomes like a scene out of Charlie Brown. You know how in Charlie Brown, when the adults are talking, you just hear rah, 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 and the kids couldn't hear anything the adults said. So he's explaining to me what's going on, and I finally had to just stop him. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm stuck back at Payless Payday. You need to tell me again what's happening. So he explained that his company had gone belly up very suddenly. He was one of five owners of this successful software company that employed about 100 people,
Wow.
had a lovely office in downtown Bellevue on Seattle's east side, and they had gone belly up very, very quickly. It's November of 97, and the country's going into a deep recession. But we don't know. It was actually a worldwide recession, but we don't know it. And we'd purposefully worked in different industries to just kind of hedge our bets. So he's in high tech, he's in software, I'm in healthcare, but we've both gone down for the count. And what what the reality of that was, he couldn't file for unemployment because he's self-employed, and we're about to lose our house. We're about to have our car repossessed. And I did think back to what Michael had said, things are going to get very difficult, likely for many years. Let me stop at that point. Questions?
Wow. Wow. What, how difficult. I can't even imagine. I can. I've been down similar kind of roads like that, but not quite like that. So that happens. When are you taken to this next level? Um what what happens in your life that takes you to a next spiritual because you're so involved spiritually? What's the chronology?
Yes. What happened next was I discovered that since the near-death experiences, I could hear angels. So I was in the pediatrician's office one day, and all of a sudden I heard, look, look. And I could see this lamp getting brighter and brighter. And I looked around the room and I knew no one else could see it. So I could see a little brochure in front of it. So I ran over and grabbed it and just shoved it in the diaper bag to read when I got home. And what it was, Calvin, was an application for a program called WIC, which I was not familiar with. It's Women, Infant, and Children, and it's a division of Medicaid. And it was the first assistance that we were able to get. It provided health insurance for me for the delivery, and it also provided some healthy food, which we just really needed at that point because we had not been able to get any assistance because we were wealthy, because we had a home and we had two cars. So, but we had just gone through all our savings and credit cards, and we're both out of work and have just my unemployment.
My goodness.
We're very, very fortunate. We were saved at that point by Bank of Mom, and my mother kindly stepped to the plate, and she just helped pay the shortfall each month so that we were able to keep our home and keep our vehicle. And then I delivered in the hospital, and they blessedly gave me one-on-one nursing because this was a really high risk delivery. Because the issue was, you just think about, the top of your uterus having been surgically repaired, and then all the pressure that's been put on it with that growth, and the concern had been that the baby could go up into my heart and lungs, which would likely kill me. So I was just so grateful to be in the hospital, have that coverage, and have that nurse with me. And so deliver this beautiful, and I kept remembering, like, okay, they said healthy, healthy baby, healthy baby. And so I delivered my second daughter on March 13th, 1998. It was a Friday. And my husband then went back to work. They were able to get their company purchased. They'd worked so hard and had so many things they had to get settled between November and March. But he went back to work on Monday. So everything like shifted in that one weekend. So I'm home. It was a very short hospital stay. I was just approved for a 24-hour stay. So I'm at home the next day. I'm alone in our bedroom, and I'm nursing the baby, and I'm just looking at her, Calvin, feeling so much gratitude. I mean, anyone does, but particularly with what my daughter and I had been through with that pregnancy and delivery. It was a big deal. So I'm just looking at her and I'm just feeling my heart opening. And all of a sudden, I see Archangel Michael come in again, clear as day, and I can see him and hear him. And he says, just very conversationally, your contract with your husband is complete. I almost dropped the baby.
I
And I'm
I know
like,
what that means.
what the crap? So I'm now not my finest moment. I'm now arguing, fighting, and swearing at an archangel. And I thought, wait a minute, wait a minute. Maybe I'm jumping the gun on what that means. And I said, are you saying my marriage is over? And he just nodded and he
Wow.
left. And I'm like, wow, way to deliver the message. Wow. Calvin, it was really the last thing I wanted to hear, but it wasn't a shock. I, I knew it was true.
Wow.
And it had been very difficult for a long time, and I had been unhappy, but I was just working to, do my best. I made this commitment. We came into this marriage for a reason. We made this commitment. So to hear that that had ended, I would later find the soul contract with my what would become my former husband. I would later find the soul contract. I believe soul contracts are agreements that we make when we're on the other side, when we're at home. And don't let the word contract scare you. Contracts can always be changed, ended if they're not serving us. They can be renegotiated. But my contract with my former husband was to have a long-term marriage together that we would both grow from considerably. We were together for 18 years and to have beautiful children together. And I could see the plural on children underlined. It's like, oh, that's why when the second baby was born, the contract was complete.
Well,
So that was really heavy information to have, but I knew I needed to know it, and I knew it was right that I had it. So we did our best to be just wonderful spouses to each other and parents. We really focused on our daughters, and we were together until our daughters were 6 and 8, because I chose to wait until they were both in school full time, because I thought that would be the best time for us to move forward with as peaceful and gentle and kind. They now use the term conscious uncoupling, and I didn't know that term at the time, but that's what I wanted to do, was just a respectful parting of the ways and just focus on what the girls needed. So we were able to do that peaceful divorce. I actually did it. It's very hard to do your own divorce in Washington State, but especially back then. But I managed to find the paperwork, and I actually managed to do it myself without bringing in attorneys and just spending that money. And so we need to learn how to work together. And we also used a family counselor for a couple of sessions to just negotiate some of the sticking points. So we went to a 50-50 shared residential schedule. And one of the wonderful things that happened during this process was my mother had retired. She was living out in Boston, where we had moved from when we moved out to Seattle. I'm the only child, the only grandchildren, and multiple people had been saying to my mom, "Why don't you consider moving out to Seattle? Because the kids aren't going to move back here, and it's just a big distance." So she decided during the process of the divorce to move on out. And what she proposed to me was that she and I build a two-family home together. And that then it would be, really convenient for her to just be there and be able to help. And she was very clear, and she said, "I'm going to be team grandmom," meaning I'm not favoring you, Wendy. I'm not favoring your husband, former husband. I'm here for the kids. I'm here for the family, and I'll help with whatever is needed for the family. So that was incredible for us, and she and I did go ahead and build that home. So it was not until fast forward another 6 or 7 years, and our daughters were now 12 and 14. And it had taken me 6 or 7 years, Calvin, to just rebuild my life, because it took us 4 years to get the house accomplished. And I really needed to focus on my career and just be, bringing in a good income for myself and the girls, etc. And just, the busyness of life. So I'd had no interest in dating. So the spiritual awakening was just kind of on back burner at that point. It just, I couldn't really feel much going on in that area. But the minute I like assessed when the girls were 12 and 14, and I'm like, oh, wow, everything's going great. We're in our new home. My career's going well. I've got wonderful friends, etc. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's missing? And all of a sudden it was like, wow, I'd love to meet a great guy. And then my mind just went blank. Like, how do you do that? I didn't feel like I was meeting anyone through, church or through friends of friends or that sort of thing. So I asked younger girlfriends who were actively dating and, who I knew had a great boyfriend or were engaged or had remarried. And I said, How did you meet? How did you meet your guy? How'd you meet your wonderful man? And several of them said to me, Oh, Wendy, that's easy. You just need to go on match.com. And my response was, Match. What? I had no idea what they were saying because it had been 25 years since I had
Yeah.
been on a date. I didn't know what online dating was. So it's now 2010. And so girlfriends helped me put together a profile. And to my surprise, that then leads to my spiritual awakening going into rapid gear again. And that was not my expectation at all. But the minute I changed the radius, because most of the dating algorithms are based on, how far apart are you willing to be? And the minute I put in 10 miles, this profile came up, Calvin, and I couldn't look away from the screen. And this was different because I'd been doing online dating for a couple of months but this was different. It's like I could not look away from the screen, and I'm reading through this profile, which was quite unusual. There's nothing trite or predictable, but it's like I knew what it said like two sentences ahead, and I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm like, I know this man. I know this man. I know this man. And I'm trying to read through, interests and groups and places he's lived in. I'm like, what is it? What is it? Where do I know him from? And the last sentence he wrote in the profile was, any woman on a spiritual path, particularly one interested in an LBL, we have to meet. And so I'm racking my brain. I'm like, what's LBL? I don't know what that acronym stands for. So I chose to Google, but I knew by that point to ask for my guides and higher self to help show me the right information on the first hit. So I wouldn't go, down the rabbit hole of 50 wrong pieces of information. I was like, show me what he's talking about. Show me what an LBL is in this context. So I immediately found Life Between Lives, which is a 4-hour spiritual regression that was created by Dr. Michael Newton, who wrote Journey of Souls. And he did thousands of past life regressions and then life between lives sessions for clients. And what the LBL actually does is it takes you back through some scenes earlier in this lifetime, and you're going back through time. And then it takes you in utero, where you find out fascinating things. So you're in utero in this lifetime. Why did I choose this body? Why did I choose these parents? What am I working on? What's my purpose? All those things I so wanted to know when I was home during the NDE. And it takes you back briefly through a past life, purposefully to go to the last day in that lifetime to then raise your vibration and frequency and go on up to the light. So it's very similar to a near death experience, but without the trauma. You don't have the trauma of what's brought you to the brink because you're working safely. You're in a meditative state. You're just in this very deep meditative state, visualizing with the hypnotherapist helping guide you. So you learn things about your soul family, you learn things about your purpose. You have these amazing reunions. You find out what your job is, what you do when you're at home with the light.
Right.
So it's just incredible. So I'm reading about this online. I'm like, oh, I've got to order this book. I'm reading about the Newton Institute and I'm reading about these sessions. I'm like, I have to go for these sessions. That's clearly my next step. So I ordered Journey of Souls from the library. This is before Kindle instant gratification, or I would have had that book in 3 seconds and been jumping into it. And so this has taken me about 15, 20 minutes. And I email this match and say to him, are you talking about, when you say LBL, are you referring to Michael Newton, Journey of Souls, Life Between Lives? And he writes back to me right away and says, yes, I'm getting ready to go for my second LBL. Have you ever had a past life regression, a life between lives? Are you on a spiritual path? And I answered him honestly and said, I I don't know that I would say that I am. I've had some amazing experiences, including 2 NDEs, and I've ordered the book. I can't wait to read Journey of Souls, and I can't wait to meet you. So it takes us 3 weeks to get our schedules synced up because of some travel that both of us had. And so we're going to meet for lunch. And by then I've had a chance to read Journey of Souls. And it's like, oh, I cannot wait to figure out how I know this man. So I'm waiting in the foyer of the restaurant. I'm just sitting on the little bench. And Calvin, the minute he walked in, I thought there was an earthquake. I literally am looking around at the other people. It's like, anyone else noticing this earthquake? Because I could feel the earth moving, and guides were saying clearly, clear as day, your life will never be the same.
Oh,
Get ready, pay attention. It was literally the earth moved.
wow.
So he came in, and I'm just sitting there gobsmacked. It's like I can't even stand up. And he dropped down on one knee in front of me. I think he knew I couldn't stand up. And he's just looking in my face. And he's like, I know you. I know you. I said, I know. Where do I know you from? So he helped me up. We go on in. And we were there for 3 hours. We would have still been there, but we both had to get back to work. The world's longest work lunch. And we're just finishing each other's sentences, and the excitement of, I know this person. And at the end of the lunch, we both said at the same time, because we'd gone through everywhere we'd lived, traveled, groups we'd been in, because I'd thinking it had been like a near miss. And I didn't like we'd met like at a professional group or, friend of a friend of a friend. But at the end of the lunch, we both just said at the same time, I know you from my past lives. And to just hear that coming out of my mouth, it's like a
Wow.
gift. And my belief system's just opening and opening and opening. I would later find my soul contract with him was to wake me up spiritually, which he did by this recognition of each other, as well as him introducing me to Journey of Souls and to past life regression and to life between lives. So that was the first contract with him. That one was delightful. I was so ready for it. It was just the right time. So where'd I get my spiritual awakening? By going on Match.com. Says no
Wow.
one ever.
Wow. Wow. What a great answer. What a great journey. Wow.
I think it's because our guides meet us, our higher self and guides. They just so want to help us, and they're going to meet us wherever we're at. If I'd suddenly decided I want to take up mini golf, I think I would have met them there. It's just like the time was there, and they were just looking for the way to connect us.
I completely understand. Those are the mysteries. Now, I had my angel. We've discussed that, last week. Uh,
Yes.
I look back at my life, and that's why I wrote this to.
Yes.
This is verbatim spiritually.
A download.
It's verbatim my journey to spirit, which is part of the title. Of course, it is a novel, so there's some fiction, non-spiritual fiction involved. But I examined so many elements of my life. I mean, for example, I was going to school in Ohio, pharmacy school in Toledo, not Rutgers, which of course changed my whole life around. I didn't get into Rutgers. And I spent 2 years in Ohio. I loved every second of it. Girlfriend, active in campus, almost dean's list. Everything was perfect. And I go home that summer of '65 from Toledo, and I'm home and as happy as I could ever be. Yet there's something, which is one of my favorite words, there's something there. And I couldn't understand it or explain it. And the next morning I got home, I decided to take a summer uh, school course at Rutgers, political science. And, I had kids from Harvard and Columbia and Duke and UPenn in my class, and I got an A. so that said to me, gee, Calvin, you can compete with anybody. I had never thought I could. And then towards the middle of summer, when the course was over, one night my sisters and parents, we were having dinner, uh, and out of the clear random universe, I'll never understand. I said to my parents, "Hey, I'm gonna transfer to Rutgers tomorrow," and it made no sense. It made no sense to me because I was everything I ever wanted to be in
You're
college.
following your intuition.
Yeah. And so the next day I went down and I had really good grades and I transferred to Rutgers. It made no sense. I was so happy out there, but
There's a calling.
there was a calling to fulfill a destiny because the whole Rutgers thing changed my life and my whole anyway, it's great mysteries. It's so fascinating and this is a good this is a good point to kind of um, end this particular session because I'd love you to come back. There's so much more to talk about. Uh, um, uh,
Thank you. I'd love to do that.
yeah, I'd love you to come back. Uh, I'm looking at my notes. There's a haunting and a ghost little element that we can talk about. Uh,
Yes.
Past life regression. I mean, the work you're doing now. I mean, there's so much, and also uh, uh, to talk about regression healing too, Joe and Marilyn, which is a best-selling book that you've written. We need to talk about that. The whole past life regression, I've done some stuff with that. So it's endless. Before we close, I always like to throw in a couple of Calvin questions. I mean, it's late in the interview, but I like this. It's one of my favorite questions. I could even ask it to you again, but here goes. Excluding, I'm completely off topic, but excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with. And,
Yeshua, Jesus.
yeah,
I
great
just,
answer.
there's something so incredible and unique about his energy. It's so gentle, yet so powerful. Very, very, it's like his masculine and feminine is like just divinely balanced sense of humor and just his knowledge of bridging both worlds and his knowledge of healing. So absolutely, Yeshua.
Great answer. In here, I wrote about, fictionally, but my experience uh, um, with Jesus for the first time. It's not in my world. Jesus is there, but it's not my immediate world. And I was having some serious surgery the next day, and I didn't know who to go to for help. This was, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. Heart surgery, and all of a sudden Jesus came into my head, and it's in
Yes.
the
And
yeah.
Jesus is nothing to do with religion. I mean,
No religion.
and
It's no
a
religion at
world
all.
teacher.
Yep, to teach and I needed help, and boy,
Mhm.
did I get help the next morning. And I read about it, uh, even though it's a novel. It's all verbatim, and it was
Oh, that's
extraordinary.
lovely.
No, it was extraordinary. Hey, listen, I don't know if I told you, I had gone to the Middle East in 2016.
Oh, what was that like?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll say it on air. It was a trip we had planned. My wife, my sister-in-law, and we had planned this for 25, 30 years to go to Israel, and and the trip came together, and the only problem was I couldn't walk. My knee was so bad I was walking with a cane. The pain was terrible, and I didn't want to go, and I know I needed a new knee and I wanted to back out. Then we planned this trip for 20 years. I couldn't, I didn't want to do it. So I said, I'll go. I'm not happy about going. And the quid pro quo was if I go with you guys and I don't want to ruin the trip, we're going to be there for like 12 days. I want 2 days for myself to do what I need to do. And they said, yeah, sure, of course. So that's how we went to Israel. And one of the first days, actually, I wanted to get as close as I could to uh, the Temple on the Mount, that holy Muslim. And I got permission as a journalist to climb to the roof of this Muslim school right near the Temple Mount. I forgot the Arabic name, Haram, whatever. But anyway, it was great. I wanted to do that to feel that
Mm.
solemnity. And the next day, I needed to go to the church. Now I'm walking with a cane because I can't walk, and it was. But the next day, I wanted to go to the church at Holy Sepulchre, which is one of the holiest spots on planet Earth. Because as soon as you walk in, the guy points, and I was there actually. Nobody else wanted to go with me, so it was my sister and me. And the guide points to the second floor as you enter the church, and that's where Jesus was crucified, the hill, and right up there, and then you walk further in, and this particular day, they were letting two people at a time to crawl through. They were doing some construction, crawl through a little tunnel to go into this little room where Jesus's coffin is.
Wow.
Oh, it's a wow. No, it's a wow. I needed to do that. So it's funny, there's a picture of me sitting, our guide took it, with my cane, waiting to go in. It was really hot. It was, August. And then they called us and uh crawl through this, and I'm tall, so I had to crawl. And there I am in this little chamber room in the middle of this church, and I put my hands on Jesus's coffin and I meditate a little bit, and I'm a writer, and I'm a pretty good writer, and I can't come up with the right words for that experience. It was I mean, I remember it, so it was kind of heavy and stuff, and that was day one. The next day I needed to go to Nazareth, to Mary's church and Joseph's church. And again, I'm basically by myself because I walk so slowly with my cane that nobody wants to walk with me. So I went to Joseph's church, which is actually built over his carpenter shop. And
Oh,
yeah, it's very cool. And it's a beautiful church and stuff. And then right next door is the Church of the Annunciation, Mary's church. And I walked down to the basement because I knew there was a shrine to Mary, and there is a shrine to Mary, and I meditated. And again, I'm by myself. And it was just nice spiritually. It's spiritual. And I did my thing, and then as I was walking up the steps, strange pain went up and down my leg. Kind of not similar to your experience, but a strange pain went up and down my leg, and I couldn't explain it. And I got to the main level of the church, and there was a side entrance to walk out. So I went to that, and it's funny. I took one step to walk out, and I had the terrible pain that went up and down my leg, and then all of a sudden, all the pain was gone. And I yelled, "Oh my God!" And my wife and sister-in-law, and the guy, everybody came running. Are you all right? I said, "Yeah." I was just healed. No more pain, no more cane. I can't play tennis
that's
anymore.
amazing.
I was healed
Yeah.
in front of four Jewish women. I was healed.
To have that sort of an energy release, that sort of a healing, it is a big deal.
It's a big
I'm
deal.
happy for you.
Yeah, I'm surprised I never told you that last week, but there was so much we had to talk about. But and I took the time to tell now because it's an amazing story,
Mhm.
truly an amazing story, and I lived it, and it was real, and there was no BS involved. This is what happened. Of course, the first day back, I went to my orthopedist who's been treating me for a million years. And I said, so what happened? And he kind of smiled sardonically at me, some strange smile. He said, I don't know. I don't know.
The miracles of the human body and heart and our lives are just beyond
Oh,
comprehension.
yeah, and then you're so replete and filled with these kind of stories. So, uh, this has been a wonderfully long, precious, wonderful, illuminating segment with you, Wendy.
Well,
Uh,
thank you so much, Calvin.
yeah, truly. So, it's a great place to kind of end this. It has been great. Um, I'll be in touch. We'll do this. We have so much more to talk about.
Fantastic.
Yep. So I'm going to stop recording.
Okay, and
Thank
before
you
you
so
do
much.
that,
Don't
for
leave. We're going to do a quick wrap. But thank you so much for your passion and your energy and your stories.
my pleasure. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Calvin.